Alright, today we're fixing to clean another classic, tell some gun stories, as this one has a family attachment. And it dates from the year 1950. I know that because it was purchased brand new by my Uncle Dalton. And unfortunately, he passed away a few weeks ago. And my aunt Ann gave it to me and asked me to get it cleaned up so that she knows it's in good shape when it goes to their grandson, who I've always called Little Dalton, but he's about 6'3" now. So that's what we're going to do today. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, hang around with me. We get her done. All right, so right now we're taking a look at the barrel. People get a little scared when they see this, but don't worry. We're not taking any bluing off of that. That's just a light oxidation that gets on. This gun actually spent a lot of years in a soft rifle case. I would recommend that people not store them in there because it sometimes those things can allow some moisture in and you are unaware of it happening. So they need ventilation, they need to breathe, just like everything else does, you know. So, but it's not going to remove any bluing. We could even, if we need to, and I don't know, it seems to be coming off pretty good, but we could even take some very fine 4/0 steel wool and put a little oil on it and just lightly rub, and it will get that little light oxidation off there pretty well. Nothing drastic. I will say that the inside of these guns have had a good coat, or this gun has had a good coat of grease. Seems like it's what it is. I have shot this A5 because I remember when I was a young, well, I don't know, probably in my teens, my Uncle Dalton let me shoot it, and he also let me shoot a cool old rabbit ear double barrel 12 gauge that he had. And of course, before he took them out, he's like, now y'all be careful. If you cock both those hammers, you could accidentally fire that shotgun both barrels at the same time. And of course, what's the first thing we did? Well, certainly, we loaded it up, cocked both hammers, and shot both barrels at the same time. And if my memory is correct, we waited until, I think it was maybe a starling, or some kind of cowbird or something. And that's what I aimed at when I pulled both those. Needless to say, the bird disintegrated into feathers. And I unfortunately was sitting when I did it, so it kind of laid me back. I wasn't as big then as I am now, who was, and it darn near laid me down. I was sitting on the ground, thank goodness. We weren't turkey hunting, but we were waiting for a shot for these starlings that were lighting in the trees. So we kind of sit down in the edge of the field, tried to be patient while they landed. Just natural bluing wear here. Looks like no kind of corrosion. That's all great and good. I don't have a screwdriver to spare right now to get these bolts out. I'll give it the best cleaning I can from what I can get to. I don't want to mar the screw facings up because they still look really, really good. And if I had a couple of bits to spare, I could tool them and form them into the exact shape of that screw head. But unfortunately, it looks like there's one, two, probably three different sizes I would have to make a screwdriver fit. I just don't have them to spare right now. But the good news is, the last time he put this thing up, he put it up because he knew it was going to be up for a while. So he seemed to have lubed everything fairly well. Of course, the places you have to watch are the places with the most bluing wear. You know, here at the end of the muzzle, right here, you can see where this thing sat in a gun rack, hanging on the wall. That's a scar we see all the time from guns that used to hang in a wooden gun rack on the wall. It's very common to see right there and right there. Just somewhere in that area past the fore end where that thing hung in the old school gun rack. That's before you had to put them in a safe because your neighbors are thieves. People used to keep them out where they were handy should they need one. And yeah, I might use a little oiled 4/0 steel wool right back in here, because there's probably a little much for just an oily rag to get, especially right in there. It feels kind of a little scaly. See what our cotton patch looks like. Yeah, there's some of that. You can see that iron oxide on there, that what most people would call rust, but it's just a very light coating, so I'm not going to dignify it by calling it rust. It's just a little light. Man, look at the shape of that. This thing hasn't been shot a lot. I can still see the original, like, tooling striations here from where this gun left the factory. Look at the inside. Would you suspect that looks like a, what would it be, 60, 75-year-old shotgun? Would you suspect that that's, I mean, it almost looks brand new. Look at that. Obviously, it's been used and it's been carried afield hunting, but it certainly has not been abused. And I would expect as much from my Uncle Dalton. He was that kind of guy. He was a man's man. And you know, that's back in the day when everybody kept their pocket knives sharpened and their tools well oiled, and because that's just what men did, you know. They were builders and craftsmen and tradesmen, and even if you didn't make a living with your tools, the condition in which you kept your tools said something about you as a person. And he was definitely that kind of man. Awesome male figure for all the kids in the family. And it has been our blessing as a family to have an abundance of those males in our lives. And very important for young boys and young men to have older men to lead them in the right direction and teach them the things that every man should know. And he was a good Christian man, very involved with his church. Obviously very involved with his family. I remember I was given the honor of officiating at his funeral. And I told the story about they lived down outside of Memphis. Years ago, back in the 70s, they actually lived in Fraser. Of course, Fraser is probably not a very good part of town now, but back then it was literally middle America. Then they had a cemetery in their backyard. And he had a story that he made up called Little Blue Hood. Y'all heard Little Red Riding Hood. Well, this was Little Blue Hood. And instead of a wolf, it involved a gorilla that escaped from the zoo. And he caused a lot of havoc there. And he came out, told us that story of Little Blue Hood, and we had a bunch of family there visiting. And I was a wee little feller at that time, probably, I'd say 9 or 10 years old. And we had a lot of kids in the family. My aunt's kids, my cousins were there, and of course, my Uncle Dalton's kids were there, and so we had a big group of kids. And he had a canvas tent that he put up in his backyard for all of us kids to sleep in, so the adults could have what bed space there was and couch space. They're going to just let us kids camp in the tent, and boy, that just suited us. Until he come out there at about dark, and we had a little fire, and we did marshmallows and hot dogs and all that stuff that you do. And he told us right before bedtime, as that fire was dying down, he told us the story of Little Blue Hood. And of course, when he got to the end and he did that growl that he did, we had about 15 kids come absolutely unglued. And when my Uncle Dalton went to the house so as to sleeping with where the adults were sleeping in a nice comfortable bed, he had about 15 kids following him into the house. And to make it where everybody had a place to sleep, Uncle Dalton surrendered and came out and spent the night in the tent with us kids. So, or we wouldn't have stayed out there. So, that's some of the memories I have with my Uncle Dalton. Now, I will tell the story on this gun. It's been a running family joke. When he when he proposed to my Aunt Ann, he knew that since he's going to be a married man, he'd always wanted an A5 Browning shotgun. So he took what money he had and he bought her an engagement ring, and he bought himself this shotgun. And she has always joked that if it hadn't been for this shotgun, she'd have got a bigger stone in her ring. So that's always been kind of a running family joke, but probably the shotgun and the ring have gained a lot of value in their time. They're probably worth about the same money in dollars now that they were when he bought them. And he was a great sportsman. Not only did my mom, because Ann is mom's sister, so that would make Uncle Dalton mom's brother-in-law. Not only did all of my Aunt Ann's sisters have a very high opinion of Dalton, but all the brother-in-laws did as well. My dad and my Uncle Dalton were really tight, and used to fish together all the time. And my Uncle Jim, which is my Aunt Johnny's husband, my Uncle Toonie, which was my Aunt Arnell's husband. I mean, they were all, we were blessed to have a very close-knit family. I have first cousins, not only on mom's side, but on dad's side, that, we grew up loving like siblings rather than first cousins. Very, very tight-knit family, very blessed. It's the way families ought to be, the way families used to be, I guess. It was just kind of, I don't know, I guess we took it for granted really a lot, that was just the way everybody's home was, And when as you get older, you realize, well, no, that's not the way everybody's home life is, and that's not the way everybody's family is, and you come to the realization that you were really smiled on by the good Lord for the family that you were born into. You had a very good leg up on life because you had all these wonderful people in your life. And something I learned probably very early is that we were very blessed and very I'll go ahead and say it, we were very privileged, not because of what we had, but because of the type of people that were in our lives. And was there a bum in the bunch? There might have been a bum in the bunch on occasion. But you know what? A strong family, they weather all that mess, and we've weathered it. And the great thing is that my children came to be adults under the love of their aunts and uncles, and are that much the better for it, really. And it's like them screwheads. Look at them screwheads. They're all absolutely perfect. I don't want to mar those up, taking those out of there. My gosh, look at the inside of the gun. Looks great. So I'm not even going to attempt to take those out. Knock all this rust off, put a good coat of oil on it. I think I'm going to give the bore a good scrubbing. because right down by the muzzle, I don't know if you can see it or not. We'll get it lined up and see if maybe you can. There's some dust, and that's just where it hung on a gun rack, and nobody cleaned it. Well, you know what? Dust attracts moisture. And when you've got dust that sits on a gun or in the end of the barrel, it can very easily start to rust right there, because that dust will hold any moisture that's condenses out in the air. So we're going to give that bore a good scrubbing, get that dust out of there, and I am going to take out the magazine spring, and I'm going to first see if it has a plug in it, and I'm going to bet that it does. And we are going to put the plug right back in it once I see that there's no rust in there, or I may just go ahead and give it a good scrubbing too. What I usually do is I'll scrub it with the 12 gauge bore brush and a little bit of this magic juice right here, and then I'll run it through a few dry patches through it, and then we'll take the magazine spring out and we'll run a brush through there and run this mop through there, and then make up a couple of good tight fitting patches with this big old patch jag right here, and drag them through just to give it a little coat of oil so that nothing in there rusts through the years. Won't hurt to have a little light coat of oil on that as well. So that's what we're going to do. And this part is the part that always gets me, because number one, you got to have patience to get this ring out. If you don't have patience, don't try it. And you can't pry against this right here. You see? Let me get this angled where you can see. There's a ring in there that actually holds that spring in place with pressure. Much like this, it's an expanding spring steel plug. You can't put a screwdriver here and pry, because you know what you do? You'll mess up the end of the magazine tube, and you don't want to do that. So you just have to gingerly move it out. They actually make tools to pull it out, and I don't have one of those tools, but I have done this many times before in the past. Now the problem is, when this booger comes out of here, it can literally put your eye out. So I will probably stop recording, go over here and get me some glasses, and ease this out the rest of the way. But always remember, don't pry against the end of this tube, because you will cause it to flare out, and you'll make it where your magazine spring retaining cap will not screw on without you doing some filing. Okay, so don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm going to pause right here. I'm going to go get me some glasses, so if this comes out of here, it won't poke my eye out. I'll be back in. All right, now you see how far I have this ring moved out. Now from this distance right here, all it's going to take is a little gentle maneuvering, and it is going to come out, and it's going to come out with some pressure. So don't be scared when it comes out of there. I'm just taking it out maybe a 1/16 of an inch at a time, and I'm working it around and working it around. And even though you know what's coming, it still scares you sometimes when it jumps out of there. So don't be shocked if I jump too. And ooh, it is very close now. All right, let's see where we're at. See how far it's poking out of there? Generally, the skirt on these is about 3/8 of an inch long, so I've got probably a 1/4 inch more to go. And there it comes, and I caught it. And there's the spring. Oh, that's got a very short skirt on it, so I was about out when I showed it to you. Take out the magazine spring. We're going to give this a nice coat of oil as well. Now let's find that magazine follower. There it is. There's that plug, and there's the follower. So it did have a plug in it, so it was already set up to be legal for migratory birds. You know, they have a limit, 3 max in the gun. So you put one in the chamber, put 2 shells in, and this takes up the space of about 2.5 shotgun shells, so that you can't fit more than 2 in your magazine. That makes it legal for duck hunting. Let me clean this skirt up. Man, this skirt really did need to be cleaned. Now, I would say I am the first one to take this out. And you'll see by the amount of gunk that we get. See? This is something that you usually, a lot of people who clean a gun, they skip this, or they forget about it, or for whatever reason. They just never think about it. You know, they think there's no firing of the cartridge actually taking place in the magazine. So naturally, they don't ever think about scrubbing there, but over time, see, so it's good that we did that. It's good that we took that out of there. You know, you clean the rest of the gun because you know, hey, it's been firing shells through there, but you never think about your magazine needing to be clean. Because like I say, it's not exposed to the firing of the cartridge. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to give them all the good cleaning with this gunk. And what I like to do is just go to one end of the spring, and you'll see I'll just squeeze through and just start twisting. And it'll run the whole, any dust or any carbon fouling that's on there, we'll strip that right off not only the outside of the spring coils, but the inside as well. And you'll see how that works when we get done with this. And I am going to go do that. I'm going to do the same thing with regular oil before I put it back in the gun. Okay, so we're a little better than halfway done now. And you can see, look and see where that spring has been rubbing on these fingers. So it definitely needed to be done. just kind of rotate the patch a little bit as I go, so that I have clean parts of the patch constantly being clean, wet parts of the patch constantly being exposed while I'm turning the screw through my grip. And you're probably going to be surprised when that comes off there. See? That's what was all on that spring. So it's a good thing we did that. And while we've got that out, I'm going to go ahead and clean that magazine tube up. I'm going to do it the same way I do the bore. I probably won't show you that part because, quite simply, it's kind of boring. You've all seen a bore cleaned before. So I'll pause the camera and I'll come back to you. All right, we have finished the bore. I will show you the difference maybe. Let me see if I can. There we go. Hold some light up at the end of that bore. That makes it shine really good. All right, we gave it a good cleaning. The good news is that it was in really good shape. That was the first patch that I drug through. And that was pretty much it. There's the second patch I drug through. So really in pretty good shape. I'm still a little concerned about this rust right here at the muzzle, and I think I will take a little 4/0 steel wool and see if I can't dress that up a little bit. Now my steel wool may not be in here. It may be on my other cart. I'm gonna give you a little tip too. Something to remember. Don't ever put steel wool in the proximity of batteries or power tools. Funny story. My dad, we have these little radios. If you've watched any on the internet, you've probably seen them. And they're Baofeng radios. And we use it to communicate on the farm. And my dad had one of those radios sitting on there. And of course it's got the exposed 3 terminals exposed on the back of the radio, so when you set it in the charger, it will contact the charger contacts and charge the radio. He had it sitting on the table, and he had some steel wool on the table, and it blew his mind because he didn't realize what had done it. He scooted that radio back and pushed the steel wool, and unbeknownst to him, that steel wool touched against the positive and negative contacts on that radio battery, and it set on fire on the kitchen table. So Dad was like, of course, raking and trying to get the steel wool put out, and he couldn't figure out why that steel wool spontaneously combusted. And I came over there just a couple hours later, and he said, I was sitting there a minute ago and moved some stuff around on the table, said, and some steel wool caught on fire. And I looked and I said, Dad, was that radio sitting there? And he said, yeah. And I showed him on the back those gold color contacts. I said, you shorted that steel wool out across the positive and negative there. That's what set it on fire. So generally, I don't keep steel wool laying on the top of my bench because I have, I've got power tools up here. I've got a cordless drill up here. I've got a cordless screwdriver up here. And I don't want to set the top of my my work cart on fire. So I moved the steel wool to another room. I'll go grab it and we'll work on this a little bit and see if we can clean this up. All right, so what I got my crow oil out. It's the oil that creeps. Got me some 4/0 steel wool. I just sprayed a little bit of the crow oil on the steel wool. Very light pressure. Just going over this area just a little bit. And that's taking it right off. I can feel that automatically it's just smoothing right up. So and that's what you want to do. You don't want to do it so hard you take any bluing off. You're just going after that little scaly oxide that's on there. And I notice there's a little more up here. I'm going to go ahead and do it right there. And also remember that little bit of oxide. I have had people bring guns in that were in great shape, except for right in here and right in here around the receiver. And that's because that's where people's hands touch. And the oils in that our body excretes can tend to be a little acidic, and fingerprints and such will cause this little surface rust to jump up on a gun. Now the good news is that modern oils like this stuff I'm using here, and Safari Charlie's, and certain types of rim oil and what they call dry lubes, actually penetrate in the pores and kind of help alleviate that problem, because it's hard to wipe it completely off. It kind of sinks into the pores and basically gives the gun a little layer of protectant there to keep that from happening. So old oils didn't have it. If you wiped them off, you wiped them off. And there we have it. Uncle Dalton's Model A5. Listen to how slick that is. Ready for another 75 years of service with the family. It's been really good to have the pleasure of cleaning this firearm that's part of my family's legacy. And I'm so happy to know that it's going to little Dalton, who is, 6'2", 6'3", and got great sons of his own, and very well behaved, very fine young man. And looking at this little shotgun makes me appreciate that Uncle Dalton was one of that generation of American men who took pride in ownership and took pride in what he did, and maintained the condition of his tools. What's more important is men who have maintained the condition of their family. And as good as he was at taking care of his tools, he was much better at taking to the care of his family, seeing to the care of his family. And he had a personal relationship with Christ for as long as I knew him. Very active in the church, very loving toward his family. And there's two things that this country needs right now. It's Jesus Christ and fathers who have a relationship with him. And like I said, in my family, we were very blessed to have had men of that caliber. And we could sure use some more Uncle Daltons right now. Thanks for watching. And come back and join us if you see us up here again. Take care.